As we begin our discussion of business ethics, we have to answer this question. Who should a corporation be acting for? Should it be acting for its shareholders so as to always maximize profit, or should it be acting for some other collection of individuals? What we're going to take a look at is two theories that speak to this. Shareholder theory is the position that a company should always act in the interests of the shareholders alone. And stakeholder theory argues that we should always be acting in accordance to the best interests of all stakeholders in the company. After we discuss shareholder and stakeholder theory, we'll turn to a brief discussion of our case study, Merck and river blindness. Shareholder theory is the view that a manager's sole obligation is to maximize profits for the shareholders of the company. How might one argue for this position? Well, the most straightforward argument is the fact that shareholders are the owners of the company. As such, they have an interest in profit, and it's an interest that we have an obligation to pursue. Another argument is that shareholder theory is the most efficient approach, and so it maximizes economic benefits for everyone. If every company aims for its own profit, in the long run, everyone who is employed by companies and affected by companies will benefit from this approach. Stakeholder theory is the view that a company should be run not only for the benefit of shareholders, but also for the benefit of all stakeholders. A stakeholder is any identifiable group or individual who can affect the achievement of an organization's objectives, or who is affected by the achievement of an organization's objectives. Given this definition, stakeholders include shareholders, management, employees, employees' families, local communities, governments, consumers, taxpayers, creditors, and suppliers. So how does one go about arguing for stakeholder theory? First of all, to use the words of Immanuel Kant, which we'll study next week, stakeholder theory treats all people involved as ends and not merely as means. In other words, it fully recognizes the humanity of each individual. Another kind of argument for stakeholder theory is the emphasis that it promotes each party getting its fair share of the profits of the company. Next week, we'll talk in depth about the concepts of fairness and justice. A third argument is that studies show that companies that embrace a strong stakeholder theory are actually more successful than companies that don't. And finally, stakeholder theory is said to be an approach that sees business as a fully human enterprise. We spend the bulk of our waking hours at work. Stakeholder theory sees those hours as just as important in terms of our humanity as all the other hours that we spend. Whether one accepts shareholder theory or stakeholder theory will have a profound impact on one's views of the case studies that we look at this semester. This is especially true with regard to the case of Merck and river blindness. We're going to apply stakeholder theory to this case and ask first, who are all of the stakeholders impacted by Merck's decision? Then we'll move on to an even more complicated question, which is, how should we go about balancing the moral claims of the various stakeholders? This can be a tricky exercise, determining what our exact moral obligations are to each party, and then how we prioritize these obligations if we can't meet all of them through a single decision. I think you'll find the Merck case a particularly challenging and interesting case for answering these questions.